Hi everyone, it's Tom Quee here of Silver Screen Records, and I'm joined by the legendary Debbie Wiseman, and today we're going to be asking her 10 quickfire questions.
Oh my goodness. It was a concert with my friend Phil Dukes, the viola player, and he's playing a brilliant viola duet with a viola and violin duet with Tamsin Little in, oh gosh, where was it? I think it was St John Smith Square. It was St John Smith Square. Phew, I've remembered. Oh, I'd love to be able to ride a bike. I know it sounds ridiculous that I can't ride a bike, but I can't ride a bike. I would never taught to learn how to ride a bike, and I'd love to be able to ride a bike.
Okay, yeah, no, I think you could do that though. You could definitely do that. Like, whilst it might generate some new ideas. You never know, locomotion and all that.
It might.
I don't think you really have that problem though. So
I'd like to go back to the real Hollywood glory days, when they were writing those gorgeous, the sort of Max Steiner gorgeous lyrical themes, and William Walton was doing his thing, and those sort of glory days of Hollywood where those big tunes were being written all the time. Everybody wanted those big tunes. They wanted those massively glamorous scores. I think I would have loved to have been born in those days, because I would love to write those sort of glamorous scores. Oh, probably, well, there's too many to name one, but definitely, of course, Mozart. Messiaen, Olivier Messiaen, I adore. I know he's a contemporary French composer, but I absolutely love his music. And then film music, John Williams, Ennio Morricone, John Barry. Gosh, too many to name one. But, of course, the greatest composer of all, probably Mozart. Non-musical, I love swimming because it clears my head, and I do get quite a lot of ideas when I'm in the water. I don't know what that is, but there's something about the monotony of going up and down a pool that somehow frees a little bit of whatever's going on in my head. Musically, I can do that. Also love snooker. I love playing snooker, listening to snooker, watching snooker. When I say listening to snooker, I mean listening to the sound of the cue ball against the, yes. When you have to make it hot. There's something very, very, and so quite mathematical and beautiful about the game, which is quite similar to music making, which is also quite mathematical and needs a lot of concentration. And you can only, when you're playing snooker, you have to concentrate on that. You cannot concentrate on anything else. Otherwise, you simply won't pop the ball. So it's a very focused sport, and I love that. That's a good question.
I mean, you've covered a lot, to be fair.
I've covered a lot. I love writing, and I love writing big tunes. So anything that was perhaps more epic. I'd love to do a real epic action movie. I mean, Arsène Lupin was a French film that I scored some years ago, which was a kind of James Bond meets Raffles. And there was about 2 hours, 20 minutes music within that. And it was phenomenally exciting to write all those different themes and action stuff. And I'd love to do more action stuff. And I think possibly that's the one area that I haven't covered lots of. I've done a few, but probably not enough. So yeah, some real action, drama, exciting thrillers would be great. I love thrillers.
Yeah, that was what I was surprised by. I mean, you have such range, you said, and we didn't really touch on Lesbian Vampire Killers, which is a particularly brilliant score of yours and kind of a new ground for you. But like, I mean, you've covered so much. Don't get me wrong. I know you must be very fulfilled, but I am thinking, like, why hasn't Debbie Wiseman done a Star Wars film, or why hasn't she done a Marvel film, or like, I'm sure you would do it if you're asked, but I think it's a bit baffling that it hasn't happened.
Yeah, I think those sort of movies with big orchestral forces where you've got masses of strings and brass and percussion, those I would absolutely love to score something like that. I think, um, that's a good question. I mean, you've covered a lot. I love writing big tunes. So anything that was perhaps more epic. I'd love to do a real epic action movie. I mean, Arsène Lupin was a French film that I scored some years ago, which was a kind of James Bond meets Raffles. And there was about 2 hours, 20 minutes music within that. And it was phenomenally exciting to write all those different themes and action stuff. And I'd love to do more action stuff. it's all about timing, isn't it? And just being asked and, being given those opportunities. But I think if I was, I would love to do something with that sort of scale again. Wilde had a pretty big orchestra. There were about, I don't know, 75 in the orchestra. So that was big. But of course, it was period drama. So it didn't have that kind of, you weren't able to give it all that big action stuff. Flood, I was able to use quite a big orchestra, but it was more electronic in places as well. So yeah, there are moments where I've touched on it. And Arsène Lupin was the one that was most in that genre. But to do more like that would be thrilling. It's hard work writing action music, because action music takes a lot of time, and it's loads and loads of bars of music, acres of stuff. So it's hard work. And I do like writing darker stuff. So maybe I've been drawn a little bit more to the darker, more melodic. But I think you can write great melodies in action movies as well. It doesn't just have to be kind of, rhythmic, which is fine, and driven, which is fine. But I think you can also write great tunes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you're familiar with Michael Giacchino, but his work, Mission Impossible and Star Trek, I'm thinking of, very lyrical, but very bombastic as well. And
John Barry, when he was doing the Bond scores, there would always be a theme running across an action scene. So it wasn't just bombastic percussion and driving rhythms. There was something else, another layer of intrigue or thrill or excitement or love or romance or drama, whatever. Something was adding another layer, another dimension to the score, which is so important, and gave it extra depth and draws the audience in a slightly different way, rather than making it sound too just one level. When there's a deadline, I know I've got to get in the studio. I mean, it's all deadline based. So I literally know, okay, I've got to be in the studio on Friday. That means I've got to finish on Tuesday, which gives me enough time to get the orchestral parts ready for the orchestra and ready for my engineer to prepare all the click tracks and whatever. There is a process, and I know when that process has to start in order to be ready for the Friday. Well, it's funny you should ask that, because I'm right in the middle of a project, and again with Alan Titchmarsh, and it's for Christmas 2024, and he's written the story Jack Frost, which is a gorgeous, simple story. 30 minutes, it's going to be for Classic FM next year, and I've written music to bring it to life. And I love that. I love getting a story or a theme or a poem or something that then I can adapt, not necessarily adapt, but enhance with music. And there's going to be a song in that as well. So yeah, that's going to be really thrilling. I think probably Arsène Lupin was the most challenging score, because there was a huge amount of music, 2 hours, 20 minutes of music. In fact, this year it's something, next year there's an anniversary double CD coming out of that score, which I'm thrilled about. And it was a huge amount of music written in quite a short space of time, full of action, drama, comedy, everything. Kitchen sink time with that score. So that was probably the most challenging, just because of the volume of it. Oh my goodness, there's so many things. I was incredibly proud this year, and I've got to mention it because it was just such a proud moment with the coronation, and having been asked to write the 2 gospel alleluias for the king, for the coronation. And then there were 2, one for the Westminster Abbey Choir, one for the gospel choir. The gospel choir just absolutely rose to the challenge, and it was a huge thrill and a moment I will never forget, being in Westminster Abbey, listening to them perform the music that I composed just a few weeks earlier at the King's coronation. Absolute magic.